What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Riders. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast, and today we are going to talk about Kamen Rider Gotchard episode 43. I'm your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Josh, I wrote you a limerick of sorts today that I would like to share with the class.
Please, I can't wait.
I ask that you do not interrupt until I
will
finish. When I am finished, I will say finished. That will be the marker.
Okay.
Josh, you are now manually breathing and blinking manually as well. You're noticing that your clothes are touching your skin. Doesn't it feel like there's no real comfortable place to put your tongue in your mouth? It's probably because your jaw has weight and you're holding it up while I speak to you now. Have you ever noticed a little crackle every time you swallow? Or the fact that you're now swallowing and producing saliva manually? What about that itch somewhere on your body? It's probably not on your nose, though, since it's always in your line of sight and you would notice it. I am done.
I hate you so much. That's the worst. It's the worst when people do that. My wife sometimes will listen to these guided meditation things on her phone, like when she's trying to go to sleep. Like if she's like extra stressed out or whatever, she'll put on one of these. And like they work for her to like calm her down and get her into a good headspace. But for me, what I hear from those is exactly this, because they always go to like become completely calm, take a slow breath. Then it's like become aware of your fingertips, feel the weight of your toes. I was like, this isn't. Oh my god, this isn't helpful.
This is torture.
It is like, and I tell her that every time. I'm like, this is just making me aware of every body part that I have and like every feeling that it has, and that heightens my anxiety to like a huge degree. Like if she's listening to one of those, I have to like put my own headphones on or something just to like not freak out while she's hearing them.
The worst.
It's terrible.
Yeah, like the worst part of a chunk of those, like the blinking one and the breathing one, stuff like that, it actually takes me time to get back out of the rhythm where I'm thinking about doing it and go back to doing it like just automatically, or whatever that fancy word is for the things that you just do without thinking about.
Right, exactly.
But the one I never knew before until today was a little crackle every time you swallow one, and then I tried it and I was like, oh yeah, I've noticed this before, and I realized it's actually a thing.
Yeah. That is a thing, and now we're all going to be thinking about it for the remainder of this podcast. Thanks for that.
I did my job.
Your thing of do not interrupt me until I am done. I will say that I'm finished, and that's how you know I know I'm done. Reminds me of a phase my daughter's going through right now, where she will tell me, like, Dad, if I have my thumbs up, it means I'm not finished. If my thumbs are down, it means I am finished. Okay? And she'll make me say okay. And I'll be like, okay. And then it'll be like the thing I will have asked about will be like, are you finished with your chicken nuggets? So then she'll be sitting there with her thumbs up for the rest of her eating her chicken nuggets. And then when she finishes them, she'll go thumbs down and be like, okay, I guess we're done then. Cool.
Has she watched any Gladiator movies recently?
No, but it feels that way. Like it's that vibe. Like she's passing judgment on me for sure.
You're going to be like, can you pass the ketchup, please? And she's just going to give you a death stare and then slowly turn her thumb down. And you're going to know you're in deep shit.
Totally. Sometimes it's not thumbs up and thumbs down too. Sometimes it's like random things. It's like if my arm is over my head, I'm not done yet. If I'm sitting down, laying face down on the ground, I'm finished. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, that seems reasonable, I guess. Just random signals that she just has decided are important.
Yeah. You should play list all the automated body things with her. I feel like if you did that to a small person, you probably like really fucked her day up.
I don't know that she. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Because I bet you if you said like, hey, you're now blinking manually, and she's gonna say, what does that mean? And you're gonna say,
what's manually?
Well, instead of automatically blinking, you're making yourself blink, and then she's just gonna keep blinking and looking at you. And she's going to go, Dad, I don't know how to stop. And then it's all going to go downhill.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't know. Her most recent plays lately are like she's like very imagination play, but like imagination play where she scripts the whole thing ahead of time and she tells you your role in it. So she'll be like, okay, Dad, I'm going to be Ghost Spider. You be Doc Ock. I'm going to come in. You say, well, if it isn't Ghost Spider, and then you try to wrap me up with your tentacles. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So she comes in and I'm like, well, if it isn't Ghost Spider, and then I'll pretend to wrap her up. And then she'll like pause the action and she'll be like, okay, now I'm going to web your eyes and you're going to try to get it off. Okay, we do that. And then she again pauses the action and she's like, okay, so now I'm going to put you in jail and you're going to try to break out of jail and you're going to say these things. Like she like script the whole thing out. We'll act out the scene and then she'll script another scene out. It's hilarious. And it's really funny, Toby, when I clearly don't do a good enough job for her and she gives me notes. That has started
I'm just
recently.
impressed that in her wildest fantasies right now, in her fantasy booking, as we'll call it, she's picking Spider-Man characters, which tells me that you got to her way too early.
Oh no, I mean like I did, obviously, but like she knows that I like Spider-Man, but the Spider-Man that matters to her is that Spidey and His Amazing Friends show. Like, so it is a kid show, like a current kid show. That's the thing she's acting out all the time.
Is Ghost Spider Spider-Man and Friends a spider?
Yeah, so to catch you up on the Spider-Man lore that you might not be aware of that's been happening in the comics recently, you got your regular, your vanilla Spider-Man, if you will, who is Peter
Always
Parker.
do.
Yep. Then you've got Miles Morales, who is also Spider-Man. He was originally the Ultimate Spider-Man, then he came over into the main Marvel universe. So now we got those two Spider-Men around. And then now, again, an alternate reality Spider person has come into the main Marvel universe. That's Gwen Stacy. You know, the Gwen Stacy who died in the main Marvel universe is alive in this other universe, has come over as well. And she is Ghost Spider. So they all have spider powers and they're all three, spiders. So that's happening in the comics when they're all like adults, basically. But in this Spidey and His Amazing Friends show, they're all kids. They know each other as kids and they all hang out and run around. So it's like a team up show where you have Peter Parker as Spidey, you have Gwen as Ghost Spider, and you have Miles. And because in the comics he's also named Spider-Man, and I guess they thought that would confuse kids, in the show they decided to call him Spin for some reason. Just randomly assigned him a different name of Spin.
Because spiders spin a web.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense where they came with the word, but it's just that's pretty funny. But yeah, she's way into that show. So that's where all of her spider love comes from. I have shown her like the Spider-Man movie. We've watched a bit of that. I showed her a little bit of like the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. And it was okay. She didn't hate those things, but they didn't like capture her imagination in the way that like the Spidey Kids show has.
When did I can't think of what Gwen used to be called now. Was she always Ghost Spider? Because I feel like she was Spider Gwen or Spider Girl or Spider Woman or something. Like, did that get switched at some point?
Well, when her comic first came out, it was called Spider Gwen. I think from the beginning, her like actual superhero name in the book was Ghost Spider. They just named the comic Spider Gwen because it was funnier, I guess.
Okay.
But I think from the beginning she has been Ghost Spider. I don't think that has been a retcon or anything like that.
I never knew.
Yeah, and that Spidey and His Amazing Friends show, it's a kid show, so like it's a little mind numbing if you watch it. But the music is very good, Toby, because I don't know if you know, but it is like what's his name from Fall Out Boy does the music, not Pete, but what's the other guy?
Patrick Stump.
Patrick does the music for the show. So the intro full on feels like a Fall Out Boy song.
So it's like Kamen Rider O's, where they're just like ska pop punking it up the whole time when they're walking around, and
pretty much like honestly the music is actually really good in the show. Like across the board, the music is very catchy and very good, especially the intro. Yeah, if anyone doubts it, but you liked early 2000s pop punk, you got to go check out the songs in Spidey.
You're so hyped
now because it will get you fired up. If you listen, I think you would even like it. If you haven't heard it, I think you would genuinely hear it and like it.
I'll have to listen after the show.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't remember how we got to that point, but yeah, she loves that very much. The other show, Toby, that she's gotten into now is there's a new Little Mermaid show out called Ariel. And it's based on the live action movie, kind of. So it's as if the character from the live action movie is a child again, but it's animated. So it's like she's experiencing these Ariel characters and stories, but like I think has only seen The Little Mermaid, like the full movie, maybe once, and maybe not even all the way through. So it's like a weird, like for her, this will be Ariel and this will be, you know, Flounder and Sebastian and stuff, like not the ones from the original movie, which I find very hilarious.
That seems weird that they like. That's like some weird reverse retcon.
Yeah, it's
Where
strange.
like
It's really strange.
like though if the live action movie was supposed to be based off of the old cartoon, or was it just a thing? And then they like switched it back to a different timeline of the original character. Then that
Well,
seems odd.
well, if you
I don't.
remember, so if you remember in the live action movie, so Ariel's black
I
in that
don't.
movie. Okay.
I now that you mentioned it, I remember the rage after I said my
Yes.
statement. I remembered.
So all of the worst people in the world got very upset about the fact that a mermaid was black for some reason, which when you say it out loud, it's very dumb. But anyway, so the Ariel in the cartoon show is also black. It has the same like red, like kind of dreads and stuff that the character from the movie does. So like it's very clear that it's like this is that character just younger, right? Like it's clear that that's what they're doing. Um, but it's interesting that that's the choice that they made. But yeah, no, it's she likes it. that's the latest TV show hit in our house.
Sweet.
Indeed. Yeah, you find out about all these kids shows, Toby, when you when you have a kid. And then
makes
you
sense.
also find out about kid shows that are not allowed to air in your house because of how terrible they are. Have you heard the horrors of Peppa Pig?
No, I just know it's like the brainwashing that's on YouTube where the AI makes Peppa Pig do weird stuff.
Oh yeah, that's one. So Peppa Pig is wildly popular. If anyone out there is ever around kids, you probably know about Peppa Pig. But Peppa Pig is like super mean. She's mean to her friends and her family, and especially her dad. Like she constantly is calling her dad like dumb and an idiot, basically. And she's like making fun of his weight and stuff. like there's like so many things that she does to like just put down her dad in like really mean spirited, horrible ways.
So you get extra mad when the show's on. You're like, get this shit out of my house, and like change the channel.
Well, like we caught on pretty quickly, like how bad it was, like when she was pretty young. So we just have never ever watched it at home. And she like very vaguely knows who Peppa Pig is from like I think from school and from seeing like toys and stuff. But yeah, we've never watched it at home because of how crazy it is. And there's a few shows like that where it's just like it's either the like mind numbing like YouTube nonsense like you're talking about, or it is like the message here is like really not thought out, like the Peppa Pig ones. Just like
I would argue they probably is thought out, and whoever makes Peppa Pig is probably like, my dad was a piece of shit.
probably
And just this is the way of getting it all out. It's like free therapy, or it's getting paid to go to therapy. I guess is more akin or acute or whatever to the statement.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, it is weird when you like. I'm sure it happens to adults too, but like you realize like what different shows do to a kid and their like their personality or like their their attitude at that given moment. like like we definitely found it early on. There were certain shows that like if we watched a couple episodes, she would like work her up way more. She'd be uh more prone to fits and stuff because of the show that she was watching. And then there are other shows that would calm her down and it'd be okay. It's very weird, like the effect that media can have on kids and on people, I'm sure too. Like for example, Toby, when I watch Kamen Rider and it gets
damn it, I was
hype,
gonna do it. I was gonna say, speaking of effects of TV shows on people,
that's what we've been cataloging here now for the past year and a half, 2 years.
entirely too long.
Indeed. Toby, we're gonna jump into some listener questions, but before that, let me give a little pitch for our Patreon. We have a Patreon full of bonus content. You get access to it for just $3 a month. And for paying that $3 a month, you get access to not only our Discord server, which all kinds of nonsense happens on constantly, full of wonderful people that are super fun to talk to all week long.
They also manually blinked their eyes, just for the record.
Yeah, every one of them. They're doing it right now. But you also get access to all of our bonus content. So we currently are watching Boon Boomjer and Kamen Rider O's. So if you sign up for the Patreon, at patreon.com/the comment writers. You can watch those shows along with us, hear our commentary and our jokes and our laughing throughout them. And it's like you're there on the couch with us while we're watching the show. It's super fun. And dare I say, the best value in all of tokusatsu. $3 a month. Patreon.com/the comment writers. And one other thing that people can do if you sign up for the Patreon is you can ask us a question over in the episode questions chat, which is in our Discord. And we've got a couple questions this week, Toby. The first one comes in from our friend Liv. Liv wants to know, Toby, our favorite summertime activities. What do you like to do in the summertime?
Right now we're pretty heat wavy over here, where it's like 90, 100 degrees every day. Sun's bright as shit. No breeze, no rain. So on these beautiful summer days, I like to hide in the house as long as possible and then turn the air conditioning up warmer because it's so goddamn hot outside that the air conditioning doesn't actually cool the house to what temperature I want it to. So rather than like run the shit out of the air conditioning in the house, you just crank it up a little bit higher.
Yep. Yeah. No. When it's this hot, we also we were driving around yesterday. I think it was yesterday. What is today? Monday? Yeah, we were driving around yesterday, and the feels like temperature or whatever, like the car temperature it was reporting inside the car was like 96 degrees. It's like, no, I don't want to live like this. Come on, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Bring me fall. So yeah, I try to hide inside on days like that. But the things I like to do when it is reasonable to be outside, when it's a reasonable temperature. Just tonight we had a little picnic out front in our house, so we brought some of am I trying to say, the camp chairs out front and spread out a blanket and had a little dinner picnic instead of staying inside, which was kind of nice. I like to go on like photo walks, take pictures. That's a fun recent thing I've started doing. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Makes me sound very old, Toby. But there's a farmer's market near us in our town.
Those are always a good time.
Yeah, there's one of those that runs in the evening on Thursday nights. So we like to go over to that on Thursdays sometimes. A lot of times the farmers markets are on the weekends and the early morning, which is fine to do sometimes too, but sometimes can take up your whole day or whatever. But it's nice because it's like a weeknight. You're probably not doing anything anyway that night. So I like the weeknight evening ones.
Josh, your story made me think of something.
Okay,
I'm gonna hit you with a question that's not a setup, or a story that's not a setup, and then a question based on something you just mentioned. So most cars now have the thermostats that are inside the car where you're like, holy shit, the car says it's 97 degrees outside, it's hot as hell.
Yep.
So the one day during the sweltering heat here, I drove through a rainstorm and that temperature dropped like 15 degrees. I got out of the rainstorm and jumped back up 15 again. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, it went from like 95 to 80 in the storm. And then as soon as the storm stopped, went back to 95. And I was like, this is crazy. This is the world's weird place. And for whatever reason, it just like shocked me how much the temperature adjusted. So the other day I looked up how the temperature in the car reading actually works. So I'm going to ask you, Josh, do you know how the temperature reading in the car works?
I have no idea. I'm interested to find out.
Okay, so if you were going to guess where the thermostat was, or the thermometer for the readout in cars, where would you think it was? Or how do you think it works?
So I would, I guess in my head it was always somewhere between the hood and the windshield. I don't know why I think that in my head, but that's where it always seemed like it would be.
I think that's what everyone thinks, because that's
Okay.
what I thought too. And like when it's super hot outside and says it's like 100, I always assume it's not 100. It's just like the dashboard radiating heat or some bullshit like that.
Yeah.
So there's what it actually does is it's not specifically like a thermostat or a thermometer. It's some other sort of scientific tool, but it actually takes the reading of the temperature off the concrete or like off the street or macadam or whatever.
Oh.
And that's the temperature it puts in your car. So like there was an article the other day, like after I thought about this, that was like, hey, if it tells you it's like 35 outside or 40, the road could still be frozen and everything else. It's actually it's not a very good way to see what the temperature is because it's just reading whatever temperature is coming off the street. So that made sense to me of why a quick rainstorm would make the temperature spike so fast
Yeah,
and then
cools it
go
right
back up.
down on the
Yeah.
yeah.
That's almost useless. It's just reading the street. It's not reading anything else.
Well, wouldn't it be more accurate for whether the road was frozen or not then if it's reading the ground, reading the pavement, reading the street?
Or I guess because it's like the gap between, like, obviously it's not touching the ground. It's just under
Yeah.
the car.
Okay, that
So I
makes
guess
sense.
that's enough of a gap where like it could trick you.
Yeah. I guess you probably have to put it under the car
So yeah, so there's no
because
sun beating down
ex-
on it or anything.
exactly, it has to be out of the sun. I'm just now realizing. But like, yeah, when it's under the car, then obviously there's heat emanating up off of the pavement, which is going to make it go crazy. I guess there's really no good place on a car to put a thermometer that would be as accurate as we would want it to be.
Yeah,
Weird.
that was all.
That's good to know. Look, everybody's out here learning something today on the comment writers.
Yeah, just like everyone else learns today that their jaw is very heavy and they're probably trying to hold it up right now.
Oh, stop. Toby, our last question from the Discord comes in from Charlie. Charlie says, "You guys spent a lot of time talking about Subway last episode. And so on that topic, what is your go-to sandwich chain and what is your typical sandwich order?"
So I live in a region where we're strictly Wawa versus Sheets. They are
Okay.
basically two fancy gas station chains that have made to order hoagies. And I would probably defer to Wawa. But the trick is you have to load up as many toppings as possible. And I also like mixing weird toppings. So I would go for like a tuna fish sandwich with buffalo sauce and then a bunch of like hot peppers and jalapenos and all the spicy things.
Tuna fish, really?
Josh, if I don't eat I don't eat meat that much. What else am I gonna get?
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I guess I was trying to figure out, what else do you get? I guess no, tuna.
So
That's
there's
it.
that, and they have veggie hoagies, which are just like roasted vegetables and a
Uh-huh.
hoagie bun, but I could make that at home. And then they have cheese hoagies, in which you get to pick two cheeses instead of one. But
Oh,
then
yeah.
there's no like protein whatsoever, and that seems like a waste.
So I like a tuna sandwich, but I feel like whenever I express interest in tuna, Toby, I get met with repulsion from the general populace. So yeah, I'm here with you. I'm gonna stand our ground. Tuna sandwiches are a okay.
I also like chicken salad, but
Oh
like
yeah, me
again,
too.
I try not to eat that much meat. So, but chicken
Uh,
salad with all the same toppings, hot sauce, like the roasted pepper spread, jalapenos loaded up, as spicy as possible.
we don't have Sheets or any of the Wawas around here. Um, we are getting a Wawa, I think, sometime soon in this general area. Like they're gonna start spreading Wawas out around here. We don't have any yet. So as far as like sandwiches go, you've got like your Subway and you've got your Jimmy John's. Those are like the two big like sandwich places around here. Um, my wife loves Jimmy John's, like loves it. Like if we're like picking a place to eat out, I think that she would pick Jimmy John's maybe like 70% of the time. Like if it was only her decision, I think she would eat Jimmy John's probably like 7 times out of 10. I historically kind of hate Jimmy John's and I put up with it to because she likes it so much. But Jimmy John's has a sandwich right now. It's temporary, but it's actually a wrap. But it is the firecracker wrap. So if you're out there and you're a Jimmy John's hater like me, the firecracker wrap might be it for you. So it's like turkey salamis, like the normal types of like meats and stuff. But then it's got like chips inside of it, like firecracker, like really like red hot chips. And it's got like all kinds of like hot peppers and stuff in it too. And it's wrapped up
Ghost
in this
pepper
tortilla that's also
cheese.
red. It's a really good spicy sandwich. That is worlds better than anything else that they sell. um, so that's been a good one lately. If we're talking Subway though, since we talked Subway last time, my go-to Subway order historically was always the sweet onion chicken teriyaki, which I don't even think they sell anymore.
No, it's
Under
probably like the number 37, Josh. It's fine.
let's look it up because I continue to be amazed that Subway's menu works the way that it does that we discovered last time.
While you're looking it up, the most important question for your hoagie sub, hero, grinder, sandwich, whatever. Do you toast the bread?
I go back and forth. Um, if I'm going to eat it very quickly, I will toast the bread because then it's a little warm still. But if it's like I'm gonna get the sandwich and then drive like 20 minutes back to my house before I eat it, then that's a no on the toasting because then you just have hard bread that's not warm and there's no point, right? I don't know.
For whatever reason, like I'm okay with. I guess if I have to have something toasted, I'm okay with it. This is gonna be a real weird food texture thing. I refuse to get any sort of sandwich toasted. I don't like bagels toasted. I don't like any of that. And there's no actual reason why. Like I'm not like crunchy food averse, but I just can't stand it. I don't know why. Because like I guess it's because like if it's a roughly toasted bun and you bite into it, like stabs you in the mouth. Like
Yeah,
maybe I have a baby mouth and my
you
mouth is
might.
too sensitive.
You might.
But you bite into it and you're like, wow, I got stabbed. And now the top of my mouth hurts. And now I'm eating hot peppers and chili, and now it burns like a motherfucker, and it's all a mess.
It is a mess. And I can report that there is no sweet onion chicken teriyaki on the menu at Subway anymore. I'm sure you can still make them do it by like just saying put this on, put this on, put this on, but you can't just order it as a number anymore that I'm seeing. Which that's the downfall of Subway. That's the reason that they're going to fail within the year because they don't have the sweet onion chicken teriyaki anymore. No, I agree though on the hard bread. I feel like especially a toasted Subway bread, it's very crunchy. Like they toast the shit out of that bread. It is not lightly toasted. It is crunch town.
That's
Uh,
neighbor to Flavor Town.
yeah,
Guy Fieri doesn't like that place that much.
you got to drive through Crunch Town to get to Flavor Town, and you don't want to stop for gas there. Trust me, not where you want to hang out. I like a good I like a good sandwich place chip as well. Some of them have pretty good chips. Like I think the Jimmy John's barbecue chips are actually really good. Their sandwiches suck, but the barbecue chips are pretty fire there. You can also get a jalapeno chip from Subway. Sometimes they're not exclusive to Subway, but Subway is where I found them first, so they're connected in my head. But they're quite good too. Some good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm interested to hear everyone else's sandwich thoughts. What sandwiches do you guys like, and what sandwich chains do you guys
This
like?
this feels like some
Very engagement farming.
I don't know what's the dumb like this old life, this American life radio station thing.
Yeah,
NTR,
yeah,
NPR.
NPR. Yeah.
This is like some like NPR like Tradio talk show shit. Like, hey everybody, today we're gonna talk about sandwiches. So we're out there looking for what's your favorite sandwich. Give us a call. Just so you know.
What's your favorite sandwich you make at home, Toby? Like not a sandwich chain, but like you're gonna buy ingredients. You're gonna make a sandwich at home. Describe that to me.
So I'm gonna go and buy my own like onions,
Okay.
peppers, probably some of their hot stuff. You saute that up a little bit, and then obviously it's gonna be bootleg meat, but like fake plant-based whatever, like Impossible actual sausages, like sausage bratwurst kind of sausages.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those kind of sausage sandwiches are fucking fantastic. That's what I had for dinner tonight. Matter of fact.
Nice. My I'm gonna gross some people out here, but my like if I'm home and I'm making a quick lunch because I'm working or whatever, the sandwich that I'm making, 9 times out of 10, I'm making a bologna and American cheese sandwich with ketchup on it.
The ketchup thing's weird. That's a little. I know a lot of people like it, and I don't see how that play the flavor profile fits together.
It probably doesn't, and a lot of people like really despise the idea of bologna as well. But growing up, like my family ate bologna and cheese sandwiches with ketchup on them, and that's all I knew growing up. So I loved them. And I remember distinctly, Toby, the first time that I went to my cousin's house, and his mom, asked like, "Oh, what do you want? What sandwich do you want? What meat do you want, or whatever?" She had bologna. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take a bologna sandwich with cheese or whatever." He's like, "Okay, do you want anything on it?" I'm like, "Yeah, can I get some ketchup on it?" And the look that she gave me, Toby, at her repulsion at the ketchup that I wanted on my sandwich was she was like, "Ketchup, really?" And I was like, yeah, is that okay?" It struck me deep, Toby. It struck me deep.
The weird one that goes along with that. When I was growing up, and even now, I'm a big like dip plain potato chips in ketchup.
Okay.
And I was
Yep.
doing that before like Heinz and Lay's and all those fuckers started making actual ketchup potato chips.
Uh,
But everyone looked at me like I was fucking crazy. But it's still potatoes. It's basically a crispy French fry. and I never thought it was that weird, and it's good.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Salt,
weird at
salt,
all.
more salt. It's just delicious.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's not weird in the slightest, or shouldn't at least be. Because yes, it is. It is the you dip your French fries there, you dip your chips there. It's all the same. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Speaking of dip and chips, let's talk some Kamen Rider because we're getting a lot out of control.
Well, we got one more email we're gonna go through here. I'm trying to get through it quick here. This one comes in from Shade. If you would like to send us an email, cast@kamenridersucks.com is where you can find that email address. Shade says, hello everyone, it's time for another gotcha. We have some more new looks for Kamen Rider Gav. But before that, the new Ultraman series, Ultraman Arc, has just premiered. So Shade links it over there. And basically shouting out the Ultraman team because all their stuff goes up for free on YouTube. And they even do, I think, from the last series to this one, an English dub as well. So if Ultraman is interesting to you at all, go check that out because that is very cool and a very cool thing to support. So Ultraman Arc, now would be the time to get in because the first episode just got posted. Then Shade moves on and tells us about the recent Gav stuff that has gotten posted. So we discussed it a little bit in our Discord, but to catch everyone up, we now have seen the full suit of Kamen Rider Gav and several of the Gochizos, which are the little like henshin items that he will be using to put into his henshin belt to transform into different types of Kamen Riders. So we've seen so far like marshmallow, chocolate, lollipop, potato chip, Gochizos.
There's a potato chip one?
There's a potato chip one. Yep. And Toby, for a pre-order bonus, we got to see the first of the Kamen Rider Gochizos. So we got to see the cute little Gochizo for Kamen Rider Kuga. Shade says, Toby, this is a sign. I don't know for what, but it's a sign for something.
So it's funny because we can conversate these things, and that's fine. I was trying to avoid spoilers, but if they're already leaning into the throwbacks and they're starting off with the worst Kamen Rider of all time, I'm gonna have to already put a hard stop on this Gav watch along.
Well, they're leaning into the throwbacks like right off the bat, which is hilarious because like clearly those things do super well for them because they do them for every rider, right? Like every single rider gets gimmick items of other riders. So those things must be like over the top super popular.
X8 never did that.
Yeah, I guess post X8. So like you go back like I don't know 4 or 5 years, and that's when that stuff really starts to ramp up in my memory at least.
I want to point out to you that sometimes I say things with no real logic base behind them, and you do like the best job ever of trying to validate that fact. Then, like I said, X8 never did it, and like you just so laughed and said okay, and like somehow you still had facts of like, well, you're right, X8 didn't do it, but like since then, and like you still had really reasoning and logic behind it. It was wonderful.
I feel like that's a really like microcosm of our dynamic. Just you shout nonsense and then I reel it back into reality and make it make sense.
I appreciate
how this works
for
around
that.
here. Yeah. But it is something they've really ramped up recently. And yeah, we're now getting them like even before the show starts, we're getting them here. Shade says that it seems like the Kamen Rider Gochizos will mimic the rider's transformation sounds with their voice. Which we get to see a little bit of that with the Kuga one, which is super fun. Like, I'm really kind of excited to just see all the different writers and hear the voices and stuff as it goes through, which is really, really neat. And if you hadn't seen the belt videos and stuff, Toby, the belt is very much based on like a Jack in the Box. So like
that was my guess.
Yeah. So the standby music is like circus music, like you would hear from a Jack in the Box. And it literally like it does the pop to do the eating. So like it's full on Jack in the Box cranking the handle thing. And then Toby, speaking of Kamen Rider promo stuff for writers. So last time around we talked about I think the Kamen Rider Gav Chemi cards. So they're making a bunch of Kamen Rider Gav focused Chemi cards. They're also, Toby, making a bunch of other Kamen Rider Gochizo Chemi cards. So they're Chemi cards with Kamen Rider Gochizo on them. That's a lot of layers here. So it's the henshin item from Gotchard with the henshin item from Gav on it, but also they are styled as other Kamen Riders from other seasons. So it's like 3 different Kamen Rider seasons coming together for this one stupid card for each of these. So far we've seen, of course, the Kuga one and the Gotchard one so far.
Yeah, I'm
But
looking at the pre-orders while you talk. So I'm going to see if I can start pre-ordering these Gochizo blind box things.
uh-huh.
And I don't see them yet, but I noticed the Kemi card. And it looks kind of sweet. I will say that looks.
They are cool looking. It's like, it's really ridiculous from a, you know, from a standpoint of like when you think about how many different layers there are to this, but they do look very cool. Shade says that he thinks the Gav belt's functionality is pretty fun. And yeah, talks about the Jack in the Box kind of pop-up vibes.
I want to point out, so we're coming into our third main season now. And between, at least from the more conversational things I've seen. So I guessed Jack in the Box on the one conversation. You guessed something that already happened. I forget, something like you clarified when we were talking. I think one of your predictions was right. And then when the food thing was really announced with the different forms and stuff, Navigator said marshmallow was definitely going to be a theme.
Yep.
And it is.
Yeah.
So we're all our patreon.com/a Kamen Riders Collective for $3 a month. This Discord is full of the smartest toku people in the history of the world.
Yeah, we've really assembled the brain trust here. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're actually like missing out on a lot of pre knowledge on shows by not being part of this.
Agreed. Yeah. Shade finally finishes up by pointing out some things from the producer's blog. So just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip a couple of them, but I want to point out a couple of the interesting ones here. So starting next week, Gotchard will focus back on its main axis, and episode 44 will delve into the core of the story of Gotchard. So that's very exciting for you, probably, Toby. Director Katsuya...
I think we know enough about him. I'm pretty good.
We're good. Yeah, it's fine. Director Katsuya Watanabe will be in charge for the first time in about 6 months, as the last episode he directed was episode 15. That was Seize the Happy, Shine Bright, Gotchaliber.
Is it so? The show went off the rails on episode 15, and now we're finally coming back at 44. Is that what we're saying?
I think that's what he's saying. And then this is interesting. I thought specifically for you, Toby, since Watanabe is a member of the Boon Boomjer crew, they had to ask them for permission to get him back for this directing for next week.
I've never had more faith in something than if we're taking the fucking Boom Boomjer guy, because that show has not missed yet. We're like 20 episodes in,
give or take. Yeah.
And there has not been one bad episode of that show.
They had to call in the A-team. Like, we got to finish Gotchard out on a high note.
Reel it back in.
Go get the Boon Boomjer guy. And then Shade finishes up by saying, I'd like to say a few words, particularly because I particularly enjoyed this episode very much. What I love about Gotchard is how they're highlighting their support characters. In other more recent seasons, Sabimaru and Renge would either be ignored and put on the sideline, or just become a Kamen Rider and then get put on the sideline and ignored again. But no, they actually went as far as giving the side characters something to do in the 43rd episode of the series, and I love that. Having strong and interesting supporting characters is such an essential part of Kamen Rider ever since the start of the franchise, and that's why I'm enjoying Gotchard. Like, yeah, they may have fumbled some stuff here and there, but so far they've included a lot of elements that to me embodies the Kamen Rider spirit more so than other recent series. And yeah, I think that is a good thing to point out. The supporting cast, I think, in Gotchard has been really awesome, and they've given them lots of opportunities to sort of like be the stars of the show, which is cool.
Yeah, like especially in like episodes 42 and 43, when Renge was pinned to the floor with an ice file and didn't really do anything. They were really they definitely showed off her abilities here. Also,
Fair.
Yes, it's a joke. Everyone calm down. It's a fucking joke. Don't yell at me. It was the first thing I thought of. Let's all have a good time here.
But we had the whole 2-parter where we went and fought ghosts, and then she was the star of that. Like, yeah, she had her moment.
I guess that's true. I mean, I was just goofing around, palling around with you.
Just joshing you.
Just joshing you. No one get mad.
All right, well, let's jump into talking about this particular episode here. As we talked about there just a second ago, it is a Sabimaru focused episode. Again, picking up from last time around, this is the end of the 2-parter. So a ton happened last time. Just to quickly catch up, we're out in search of the 102nd Kemi. Hodoro, Sabi, and Spanner happen upon the Congo laboratories, kind of hidden out in the forest, which turns out it's like a hidden offshoot alchemist sect, basically. It's no longer underneath the kind of alchemy council. They've sort of like splintered off. And we find out that Garion was involved with Congo Mami, kind of the leader of the Congo laboratories at some point. Sabi's brother is also there. His name is Kenichi. And there's a Kemi on the loose. That's what we knew from last time. That there's this Kemi rampaging, and it kind of took over Congo Amami. And yeah, that's kind of where we're picking up here. And the very first thing, Toby, speaking of people getting frozen, is that Professor Minato.
Speaking of these best supporting
Well-
characters in the history of Kamen Rider, because now we're going to escalate this as much as possible. We open on the continuation of last week when everyone's still frozen to the floor, and Renge is doing her best supporting character work.
Yes, this is she's winning the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress by standing really still.
This is what you get for mentioning Kuga, goddammit.
The whole like them being frozen thing was funny last time, and then Minato freezing himself too was pretty good, because you don't see him involved in the comedy stuff ever. Like, this was really the first time he has ever been the butt of a joke, which is fun to see.
I will say that Renge's frozen person acting job is more solid than Kudo's. She's really not moving as much as Kudo flopping around on that one leg.
Yeah, Kudo did get the harder pose in her defense. She's having to she's on her hands and knees with one leg up. Like, that's rough. That's a rough way to have to pretend to be stuck. Then we cut back over to Congo Laboratories. We talk to Mommy. First of all, I love that her name is Mommy, because it led to so many like hilarious English translation jokes for me. Like when Garion is like, he like picks up the rope and he's like, Mommy. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny, folks. But she's recovering after she, was amalgamated last time around. And the little kid adorably is kind of telling Spanner off because she's very worried about Congo Mommy. And Mommy is basically super worried about her laboratory. She begs them to protect the place from Garion. She knows that he's coming. And then, of course, lo and behold, Toby, he is coming. He's wandering through the woods. And just then he finds the perimeter of Congo Laboratories. So it's interesting. Like, they just sort of let her run off in this scene, because she's like, I'm gonna go check on the kids. I was like, she was just the amalgam. Like,
she's probably still not in the best place.
Yeah,
she still has like her infection's not completely cleared up. She's on the medication now, but it might be still a little contagious. Maybe not the best move.
Yeah, I thought for sure that like they'd watch her a little closer, but now they pretty much is like, yeah, no harm, no foul, it's fine. And then, yeah, our perimeter is compromised. Sabi says that he'll go with Hodoro, but his brother just like shuts him down super hard. Basically says like, where do you think you're going? You're just gonna hold him back. Like, you can't do anything. Really crazy.
and this starts the actual point of Shade's email of more specifically Sabi and his two than I feel like Renge and her two. The kid who's Sabi's actor is fantastic. He gets all the best dramatic, like actual emotional acting that we probably have in the show, and he fucking nails it every time, all the time. Like, especially this episode more so, and especially with like the more bluish tinted color correction and stuff on the film. It just looks like super like deep and moody and brooding and all those good emotions.
Yeah, I think that kid's great. Like, yeah, I agree. I think he's really, really good, and they've given him several opportunities throughout the show to show his range. And yeah, this is definitely the shining star of that for sure. So this is the point, with we'll skip around a little bit here, but this is the point where kind of Hodoro begins to realize the truth of kind of the relationship between Sabi and his brother. So we'll maybe combine all these scenes together so we can talk about it as a whole. But like, basically what the gist is that Sabi was a shy kid. His brother made Isaac for him, and
that was one of our guesses.
Yep. And
Again,
copied. We're so good at this. We're so freaking good at this.
what
And Isaac is a copy of the brother's soul. So like literally he's carrying around a representation of his brother who is speaking for him, which is kind of adorable. And then we find out in flashbacks that Sabi and his brother had kind of designed a chemi, like literally just drawing them in crayon, and then decided, hey, let's try to make this chemi. So they did some crazy alchemy, and in the first flashback we see, it appears that Sabi, the younger child, like spills the alchemy juice on the artwork, and then the older brother is like quickly like cleans it up and says like, okay, this will just be our secret. Let's not tell anyone about it. Um, but come to find out that created the chemi, and the older brother took credit for it and said like, hey, I made this. And he clearly holds a lot of guilt because of that. But the big reveal at the end of the episode is that Sabi says, hey, it wasn't just my ring that glowed, yours did too. Like we created this chemi together. And kind of the idea is like, hey, our brotherly love came together to create this life form that neither of us could have done on our own. And that kind of brings them back together as a unit, I guess.
I usually scroll through whatever scenes we're talking about as we talk about them, just for reminders and little goofy things to point out while we do this. Uh, I went back to the first scene that you're talking about now, when, like, before they said, like, oh, by the way, your ring glowed too.
Mm-hmm.
The first time, his ring does not glow too. So that feels like, if we're to get deep divey in the editing here, they actually should have made his ring glow both times.
Yeah, I mean, they could have. I also think that this episode shows us a couple instances of like how to explain it, like scenes from inside a character's head. Because later on we get clearly what the brother is thinking, because he's kind of distraught about like, I took credit for your work. I haven't done anything. Like I'm useless here. And Sabi's like, no, Isaac's awesome. Like, look at this thing you made. It's really cool. And he's like, throw that thing away. It's not worth anything. Like, I haven't done anything substantial. And then immediately we get these crazy dark scenes where Sabi, it's like zoomed in really tight on his face. It's edited very weird. And it's him saying things like you betrayed me, like you're worth nothing, which obviously Sabi's not actually saying. So it's clear that it's like that's what the brother is imagining that Sabi would say, right?
Yeah,
So
or it's like it just, he feels so much judgment. They just, no matter
yeah,
what his brother says, he just feels yelled at or put down or threatened or whatever.
yeah. So like maybe be a, they probably should have edited it the same way both times they showed that scene, but I guess we could also think about it like, hey, the first time it was the brother's memory of it, and the second time it's Sabi's memory of it. Like the first time the brother didn't know his ring went off, so he's only seeing Sabi's, and the second time it's the quote unquote real version where we're seeing both rings happen.
See, there we go. Josh
Yeah.
got me again. This is his job.
One thing I really liked when I was a kid, when Marvel Comics would have inconsistencies, if people wrote in to the letters section of the comics, pointing out the inconsistency, but also explaining it away through storyline. Like if they was like, oh, in this scene, like Spider-Man said this, but he would have already known about this because such and such. But you can explain that because, and they'll like weave some story reason why it works. Um, Stan Lee would give them a no prize, which is basically just sending them back an envelope that says like, you won a no prize. And as a kid, I always really, really wanted to find an inconsistency and win a no prize. I never did, but it was always a thing I really enjoyed in reading about, because it's like, I don't know, it was always like really cool. It's like early fan fiction, basically, right? Like like making this media that you're watching better. So that reminds me of a no prize, Toby. I won a Kamen Rider no prize.
That's even funnier because, like, that was obviously just letter writing in like the 80s and early 90s. But
Yeah,
it's really just the annoying shit that people do online now.
it is.
Like, it's the
Fan
same exact
theories.
thing. And like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not as aggressive as like when fans bitch of like, you ruined the canon because their eyes are greenish blue and not bluish green. And people get all pissed and like rage. And then the producers feel like they have to comment back. But Stanley was doing it the right way back then.
Yeah, I feel like, not to gush about Stanley, I love Stanley very much. Like he's a man who had some issues, but like um a lot of his ideas about like the comic industry I think are really fascinating. And that one in particular I think is really cool because yeah, it wasn't just like acknowledging the fans bitching about things. It was like co-signing the storyline reason of the fix for it, right? Like if you wrote in and just pointed out something was wrong, you didn't get a no prize. Like you had to also say, well, this could be wrong, but it's not because um that's how you got the no prize. So it's really cool. Like you don't see that anymore today where people are like, yeah, like you said, complaining about inconsistencies, like and fixing it. um and yeah, I always thought it was cool because then it was like literally the dude who wrote the comic is saying like, "Yes, I agree. This is what happened. Here you go." So you're sort of like becoming Marvel history at the same time.
There you go.
And now you just are, a YouTube commenter screaming into the void. and that's and that's your contribution to society.
But you might have got like 3 thumbs up, so it
That's
evens
true.
out.
That's true. So how do you feel about the Sabi and Kenichi arc with these brothers? They're the whole dramatic telling here. Now that we've described all the scenes,
I think it's all like the whole thing was solid. Sabi in particular, especially with the actor, was very good. Uh Obviously the way that their little story wrapped up makes the most sense for this very happy show, and I didn't like if it was continuing, that it seems like it was the most obvious way this was going to happen. But it was fun to be like, no, I was trying to protect you. Hey, we did this together, and then we, stop hearing crazy, scary voices. I'm not saying this to you. I love you. I'm a nice little guy.
just a nice little guy. Yeah. um. Yeah, I thought it was. I thought that the only issue that I had with their whole arc thing was how mean the brother was to Sabi right at the beginning. Like, if he's racked with guilt about taking credit for Sabi's work, and he's racked with guilt about how he's worthless, it seems like that character wouldn't thrust that on Sabi in the same way. Like he wouldn't be like, "You're useless." Um, I don't know, that felt a little like out of nowhere for me with the rest of the tone of their story, um, but that's pretty minor. I mean, I still really like kind of where they're going with all this, and I really like in the final fight, sort of. So after the brother sort of kind of gets defeated and we capture the Kamen card, Spanner basically gets to go full action. No, it's not Spanner, sorry. Sabi gets to go full action hero, and he uses the X sword with the Kamen card to cut down this Dread Trooper that Garion creates. And that's such a cool moment. He's like sliding on his knees and slashing the trooper open.
I
Um,
appreciate that, like, the trooper effectively bled blood and
yeah,
looked more like orange goop to guess keep it kid friendly and safe. But he basically did like a samurai slash. Like I've been playing a shitload of like Ghosts of Tsushima or how you say it recently.
uh huh.
So it's like literally just one of the moves out of that game where it's like the ending of a duel and you do one big slash and it cuts deep and sprays blood or whatever everywhere, and it just looks amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it was exactly like that. Yeah, just like gush, 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 gush while he slides past. This is very, very cool. And leading up to that is where we get sort of the emotional high for Sabi, where he's like you were describing, just like screaming as he's swinging this sword, like "You're my cool brother, right?" Like just awesome, like very cool, very great actor. Um, Also in that last fight scene between the two of them, I loved that at one point Kenichi like dehensions from the amalgam, but is still like beating on Hodoro's chest as the common rider. He's like still fighting, but he's like screaming and crying as himself. That visual was very funny, and I liked that a lot. And also, it lends itself to like, oh, this Kami's unstable and he can't really hold his physical form together. It all made sense why it was happening, but visually it was very funny to see that happen. And then the finally them having their big sort of like brother moment, and then having Kamedun kind of like be overwhelmed with emotion as well and like scream and cry, um holding the like his arms, which are like tank treads, up to his face, which is like a cannon, and scream and like wave his tank tread hands was my favorite visual of the whole show. It's really good. But yeah, I think that arc there was very good with them. Let's cut back now and talk about sort of everything else that's going on. That was like the main thread of the episode, but there's a lot of other stuff that's happening around the edges. And the main one being Garion is attacking. So we talked about him finding the perimeter. Spanner goes out to encounter him first, and this is Garion by himself. Like we hadn't really seen him fighting his own battles much, really, and of course he'd been gone for a long time. But he's here alone. Spanner finds him, and the very first thing Spanner says is, "I'm dragging you back to hell, even if I have to do it myself." Spanner lines are just top notch. Then we find out here that Garion still has control of all of Jermaine's powers, including the ability to summon that crazy golem that Jermaine can do, which is awesome. So the majority of the fight scene this episode is Spanner and Hodoro trying to take down this crazy golem, and it takes both of them, and it clearly is a very hard fight, but they finally are able to beat the golem.
Oh, of course. I for a reason this time more so than other times, I'm not going to. It's not directly a henshin, but Gurion basically doing the Rubik's Cube twist in his one hand as like his henshin summon snap your fingers thing. But I guess maybe because I haven't seen it for a while either. Clicked as like, this is actually a really fucking sick way to do a henshin, to just like screw around with the Rubik's Cube and just have stuff happen.
It's awesome. Yeah. Like he definitely, yeah. I wondered if the Rubik's Cube would go away when he came back because his heart was inside it, right? Like, oh, is it just going to be consumed when he appears? But no, he still uses it as his like main device. And yes, that is his totem, basically, that all of his magic comes from, clearly. And we find out finally he makes it inside, so he leaves Spanner and Hodoro to deal with the golem. He goes inside and he confronts Sabi and Kenichi. And turns out the main thing that he's after here is Isaac. That's the only thing he really wanted. The reason he's attacking the laboratory in general is because he wanted Isaac.
Hey, it's smart, genius, chemi-driven AI, so you might as well.
Makes sense, yeah. And then this is, of course, where he turns Kenichi into Kamadun, and then that leads to the big kind of battle to finish out the episode. And again, he hammers home the point later when he sees the Kamen Riders. He holds up Isaac. He says this is the only thing that was worthwhile here. Everything else here was worthless. And then in this fight, there's a couple other good Garion moments. At one point, Sabi tries to shoot him with his little like hand cannon thing, and it just reflects off. He barely notices it, and then he finally looks over and he says, "Little child, do you have a death wish?" Which is very cool. And then that's when he creates the Dread Trooper. So the Dread Trooper is interesting. He turns the Isaac tablet into a Dread driver. And then basically the explanation is he makes a copy of his soul that becomes this kind of like autonomous Kamen Rider, autonomous Dread Trooper that can do its own fighting and kind of has most of the power, it looks like, of Garion. And based on the end of the episode, it seems like we're going to get a big army of Dread Troopers because he creates this like giant network in the sky above him of all of these different henshin belts, and talks about the fact that he has like unlocked a higher form of alchemy or of chemistry, whatever.
He's even better at than he used to be.
Exactly. He's back. He's better than ever. So that's cool. It's nice that they will be able to have basically like strong putties, essentially, is what they're creating here. Like they can do kind of a proxy war now where Garion doesn't have to raise his fist until the very end, but we can still get some big, powerful fights. And in the midst of this fight, Toby, the little girl who'd been Spanner's little sidekick this whole time, Arumi, has gone missing. So there's like a little side plot where Spanner goes to hunt her down, and the Isaac tablet that she has pings him, and he goes and finds her. And it was very cute. He comes out holding her and kind of puts her down, like saying something along the lines of like, "Well, if you can walk, just go ahead and do it." And then she tells him that in my book from now on, you are a grade A rank, a super A rank mister.
And he gets all coy and shy and basically giggles it off. And he's like, yeah, whatever. That's what you want to say.
I loved that moment because his exact words to her are "whatever you want, kid," as if he's doing the like, okay, sure, kid. Like kids say the darndest things when in reality, like an hour ago, he's in her face being like, you know that I'm a super A rank alchemist, right? Like you know. It was a really cute moment between them. I liked that a lot.
I think with him especially, any of his quote unquote soft moments, with how much of a hard ass he acts like all the time, it's just fun to see the more human side.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially because he was still like he's still acting like a hard ass to the girl, kind of, but in a big softy kind of way. Like
Yeah.
he's saying all the words that make him seem like he's a tough guy, but like he was the first dude to run off when he heard that a roomie was missing. Like he cared a lot about that little girl, and that was very cute. Um, yeah, and then that her coming back, and the revelation that like, oh, her Isaac tablet pinged me. Like, look, brother Kenichi, your Isaac tablet is super important. It saved this little girl's life. Was part of the impetus for the big brother reconciliation at the end, which is a cool way to tie that back in. And then in kind of big resolution for the episode, Toby, back at the classroom. We head back in. Everyone's frozen still. And we get the hilarious line. Renge says, I feel like I've been here for a week.
But
Because she has been. Yeah. And then Sabi uses the eraser Kemi to unfreeze everyone.
I was super stoked about that. It's so stupid, but it was fun that was the fix for our little goofy buddy.
Yep. I had to go back and pause it to confirm for sure that was the Kemi he used. And it was, yep, our little eraser buddy saving the day. And it was cool that Sabi got to be the one who knew how to save them. That was a good little bow on top of his episode.
And then the one other little ending thing that at least like tied up, or not tied up, but like was a nice little touch too, I think, was when Gurion came back, the littlest sister was like, Father, you're back. And he's like, I am my daughter, or some shit like that.
Yep.
So she finally got her dad back like Hudo.
She did. Yeah. They're in that ending scene was interesting. They're in this like black room with golden lines kind of crisscrossing it, and they've created a throne for him. So he's sitting on this throne, and yeah, he like full on kneels down, gives her a big hug, told her she's done well, calls her daughter, she calls him father. So yeah, she gets everything that she's wanted. She has her dad back, and the other
and now
sister,
she owes Kudo her life.
she does. Yeah. And the other sister looks on kind of in shock or disgust, even like the other sister is not like, oh, it worked out for Atropos. She's like, oh, I can't believe this is happening, almost.
Well, yeah, it's hard to tell if it's like, why doesn't he call me daughter, or just like, you don't care about Clotho anymore, whichever one's the missing one. Because we haven't talked about that for a while. Because
she wasn't in these two episodes at all.
Yeah, no, obviously the whole fight with the two bigger sisters is they're supposed to be on the same team, whatever team it might be.
Yep.
So I feel like the big one feels like the little one gave up now. She got her win, so she's like, "Fuck it, I don't care."
Yeah, could be. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if what angle that takes. Like her clear face that she makes. If it is, why aren't you focusing on me? Or like, have you forgot about our sister? Like, we have bigger fish to fry, and all you care about is getting a dad. What do we do? Yeah, this is then when we see the dread drivers over his head, and he forms his little, the threat of an army, basically. So yeah, again, an action-packed episode. Last thing we didn't mention that does happen in this episode, which I think is very worth pointing out because it'll definitely come up later, is Garion kind of just like pieces out from this fight pretty early. Like he creates the dread trooper, and then he kind of walks away. As he's walking away, he encounters Kongo Mami, and he gets really close to Mami, and he leans in and he whispers something to her. We don't get to hear what it is, but we get to see her face, and she like kind of has this like emotionless reaction to it. Like she's not shocked, but she like just sort of stares long distance, and then he wanders away. And I have no idea what he could be saying, but I'm very, very interested to find out what it is. But yeah, I still don't trust her fully. I think there's more to their relationship than she's letting on. I definitely think that he might have some sway over her that we have yet to be revealed.
It's her ex-husband.
Maybe, yeah, it literally might be. Because the way that she described it in this episode, it seemed like she was aware of his danger maybe before even the rest of the alchemy union was, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to figure out the timeline, but like the way that she describes it was just like, oh, I realized that he, like, the stuff he was doing was dangerous. Like, it seemed like that was pretty early. So anyway, yeah, we'll see what their whole deal is. So yeah, a lot happened this episode. A lot of resolution here for Sabi and his whole brother and home life and where he grew up and all that jazz. What are your thoughts, Toby? How'd you feel about this whole arc?
Solid arc. The show seems to be coming in strong to end the season out here. If the King of Boom himself is coming back to do a little work in the next week or two, I have nothing but high hopes for those episodes at that point. So we should be coming in strong here.
Yeah,
or finishing up strong, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting them talking about like, hey, coming back to the main arc. I'm really interested to see them bring this home.
If anyone can write the proper Hodoro's dad scene, it's Mr. Boom Boomjer.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We can bring in some horrible puns at the same time, and it'll be magical. We're, of course, we've talked about at the beginning of this episode. We're fully in the time of the year now where we start getting a bunch of spoilers for the next Kamen Rider, and I start getting really excited about that. But I'm still really interested in the resolution of Gotchard here. I think this has been a really fun season. I hope that they can stick the landing on a lot of the stuff that they've set up.
Fingers crossed.
Indeed. All right, so that'll wrap us up, I think, for our discussion of episode 43 of Kamen Rider Gotchard. Toby, why don't you tell the people where they can find you on the internet?
On Twitter, it's at Life of Tobes, and on YouTube, it's Tobes Plays.
I'm on Twitter at PrettyDeeceJosh, Blue Sky at Meek.lol, on YouTube at PrettyDeece. And you can catch us all throughout the week over on Discord, which you can get access to by joining our Patreon, patreon.com/thecommentwriters. You get Discord access and a whole bunch of bonus content that you can go back through. Tons and tons and tons of good stuff on there. And of course, you can ask us questions in the Discord or by sending emails over to cast@commonwritersucks.com. We very much thank you all for joining us, both in the Discord, on the Patreon, and just listening. We're very happy to have all you out there listening to the episodes every single week. And we hope you join us back here next time around where we are going to talk about episode 4 of Kamen Rider Gotchard. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.